Hello, World War II history buffs. This is Larry Martin from Larry Martin's World War II in Their Own Words programs. I've had a lot of interest and questions about the German army that people have sent out to me on Twitter. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the soldiers I have that were German soldiers. Uh, I've got one fellow named Leo Forrester who's passed away. Leo fought in 1944 around Cassino in Italy, and he talks about coming around a mountain and seeing 200 Germans, soldiers, hung. And I said, "Who did that, Leo?" I said, "Did the partisans, the underground?" He said, "No, it was the SS." He told me that a German general had reason to fear a young lieutenant in the SS. The second fellow is Ernst Floater, who I know very well. He lives around me up in Michigan, lives near me up in Michigan. He was taken prisoner in Normandy. Uh, he came back here, and after about 3 weeks of fighting in the hedgerow country with the German Wehrmacht, he was wounded a couple times, taken prisoner, and brought back to America, where he picked cotton and fruit as a POW. The other fellow is, let me think, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. Adolf Lohner. Adolf is quite young, but he's still very strong, um, very sharp individual. And he fought on the Russian front. And Adolf talks about, this is going to sound graphic, but it was World War II. He said they killed so many Russians that they got tired of killing. The Russians just kept coming, and sometimes without weapons. They just were forced to rush right into the German artillery, every other kind of weapon. I just read an article today that said that Russia executed about 158,000 men of their own men for cowardice, for running in the face of the enemy, all kinds of reasons. We executed one. We executed one man in France in about January of 45 from mid-Michigan. Eddie Slavic was his name. He didn't do anything that a lot of men hadn't done. He got in a hole during the Battle of the Bulge, and he said, "To hell with it, I'm not coming out of this hole." And Eisenhower signed a death certificate, and they did execute Eddie Slavic. Um, anyway, back to the German soldiers. Uh, I've got probably 6 hours of stories by these men, all on DVD. They're all for sale with the permission of the soldiers. Um, if you would tweet me with questions about them, I've got dozens and dozens of stories. Leo talks about he was poor after the war. There was nothing until the Marshall Plan kicked in. They were starving to death, and he was running binder twine. Sounds harmless, but the Russians needed it. He was in the American sector, and he would go over at night and trade it for alcohol. He'd trade binder twine, rolls of binder twine, for bottles of whiskey. He got caught, thrown in a basement of an old building with 2 feet of water on the ground, was almost dead from starvation and no water when they threw another young German in there, and the German killed the fellows, the Russians, and helped Leo get back to Berlin, or back to the American sector. And I just have 5 or 6 hours of these fellows talking. So if you'll come to me with some questions on Twitter, or look me up on at Larry at lmww2.com with some questions. Leo was involved in the Crystal Night, or Crystal Knock. I think it was in 38. He was 13, and he was given a bag of rocks and told to go break Jewish store windows. He was a 13-year-old kid. He didn't know anything about the politics or racial hatred. He just was told to do something by his elders, and he did it. So anyway, if you have any questions, tweet me with them. Email me with them. Look at this constantly. I'm going to be updating all the time with questions and with thoughts on whether it's the Germans or I got a woman who lived 4 years under Japanese rule. I've got any kind of American serviceman that you can imagine as far as paratroopers, Marines, pilots, anything you can imagine. But back to the Germans. I have three, probably 5 or 6 hours of film, 5 hours. And any questions you have, come back and let me know, and I'll try to answer them. Have a good evening, and tune in again, and we'll talk more about World War II. Take care. Good night.